Let's welcome our next guest in the installments of many, many brilliant guests. We've had drag queen. We've had a whole heap of different creative people. And next up, we have someone who is very, very creative, but in a very different way to most people. An eclectic sort of person. Let's welcome Keisha. Or should I say Pan?
Otherwise known as Pan, yeah. These days.
Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Great to be here. Honestly, awesome. It's been a wild couple of years, honestly, since we've mostly last known each other, and I'm, glad to see you here.
So I suppose let's start at the beginning. Growing up, whereabouts were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Coffs Harbour and I grew up in Coffs Harbour mostly. I grew up travelling a bit because my mum was around. She moved a lot and away a lot, so I travelled to and from those places a lot too, but mostly Coffs.
Mainly Coffs?
Yeah.
And your family, what was your family like? Your mum and obviously siblings?
Well, my mum, she's amazing. She was an incredible cook growing up. She opened a bakery when I was about 13. And
oh, wow.
It was just outside of Coffs Harbour, really, in a smaller town, but she supplied so many places around that I did a lot of work with her as well, and that was always fun. So she gave me a lot of, great work ethic, and my nan as well. She was always working constantly for Coffs Council. She was just absolutely insane with that because she came from, obviously, Lithgow, the Blue Mountains, where I am now, and she worked for council there too. Living there, we kept working, and I know watching her and following her growing up, that's all I really did. So that was, my immediate family.
So it's a great mentor, though, I suppose, in life, or someone to see as, high standing in society that loves society, really.
Exactly, and that's what she mainly was to me. She was my mentor, and so was Mum.
And where does all this creativity come from?
Well, that's the thing. Everybody was so confused for so long as to where it all came from. My uncle was really a big instigator with it, but he was only around for, a lot of my life before I turned 11, which I don't really remember a lot of from that time. And even though he was great with drawing, he's still a very analytical kind of person. So I don't know. It really came from, I think, my pop, who I didn't have much experience with. He was my mum's dad. And, he came from the mountains and he was a musical genius. Some people called him. He could pick up an instrument and just play. But, the artistic and, those sorts of capabilities, they aren't really in my family. I do believe that I guess autistic mind is, though, and that's kind of what I fall into within my family. And that's the pattern that I see more or less forming. We have an engineer who has worked for NASA, different places. He's written a couple of different books on, aero engineering, different crazy fields that I have no idea about, to be honest. Yes. And I think that analytical kind of autistic focus is more or less what I find myself realizing.
So finite detail and breaking things down a bit more, and I suppose try to understand things from not understanding.
Yes, exactly. I've always I've always found that I don't understand things very easily, and that I have to really dig in to something to understand it and therefore focus.
That's the beauty of laying on the spectrum, though, I suppose, isn't it?
Exactly.
Unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately.
I believe, fortunately, it's it's something that I find people now who I wish to employ that have the same sort of capabilities, because it really is such a good thing to have when you can really just dig into one subject and you want to specialize. You want specialists. That's all I need, and those people are great for it. I find that I do. And rather I did jump from thing to thing before I found, exactly what I was.
Until you found your calling.
Yeah, exactly. And even now, I think with what I'm doing, it's more of an everything thing. Like I'm turning it all into, well, I'll just do everything, make it
Yeah. Yeah. And what was your focus or main focus creatively as a child and growing up? Was it music? Was it fashion? Was it?
So thinking about it now, it was music. I always drew on and off, and that was sort of more something that I came and went from.
Mm-hmm.
But music was always something that just ran through me, and being at home, even though I didn't live with my mum, a lot of the time being at her place, music was just something that it was part of our family, and something that we did on and sang on a regular basis. You know, it was just something that happened. And my mum is an incredible singer, and you know, like I took my cues from her. And even though I've never had, well, I've had a couple of formal singing lessons in my time, but with different people, but you know, never really committed to it because my mum was the teacher that I needed, and she was always just on top of it. She was always incredible. So watching her, it really, I think, helped me, and I really think it pushed me more towards music all that time.
Yeah,
And
no, it's really lovely.
It's just not really something that I do now so much, unfortunately.
But you're still creative in many other ways, though, regardless of whether music's the thing or not.
It still runs through there sometimes, and I still write things down every now and then, but it's not exactly something that I focus in on, and that's not such a bad thing.
No, there's a time for and a place for everything. You know, we all kind of come and go to those things that are creative when we feel like we need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It may come through again one day. We'll see.
Yeah. And so I suppose with that, then your family were very, very accepting and very, very for the arts and for entertainment, if that's, you know, that style of life.
My mum definitely was. She was absolutely open about all of that, and to be honest, my nan and I mean her best friend who lived just down the road, they raised me together. They were also, you know, very, very much within those worlds, and you know, they took me to theatre showings all the time, and they took me to, I mean, you know, bigger theatre showings in Sydney and things like that. And yeah, it was always definitely something that ran through us. It was not something that I think was seen so much of a career for me to pursue at that time. Though
it was more a love for the arts then.
Yeah, exactly. And though it was, you know, absolutely encouraged to be somewhat creative within the family, it was not so much as a path to making money. And so it was harder kind of validating that with my grandmother, at least.
Okay. And I suppose that comes from her background of working a 9-to-5 job, working a normal sort of structured life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Rather, she did see careers within the arts, because she technically was within a career within the arts as event manager.
As events, and that's why I'm bringing this up. Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. So she saw more of a career in, you know, the labour side and the hard work.
The organisation of it.
Exactly. And so you know, she gave me a lot of opportunities in doing behind the scenes work with the theatre and things like that, because that was obviously definitely seen as a career path, because there were, you know, infinite ways to make money there. And so I was pushed towards that a little bit, but, you know, I was mainly pushed towards, honestly, law degrees and you know, different things like that. So.
Yeah, far out. Well, but that's still creative. That's still or acting, at least, anyway. You know,
it was suggested that I do, you know, arts law, and you know, I thought that was
that arts law is so boring.
Oh no, that's pretty ironic.
Arts law is so boring.
I was thinking criminal law. You know, I would do forensic science.
That would be way more fun. Yeah,
exactly. Why not?
Entails way more than just laws and bylaws and policies and.
And you know, to be honest, I had no hope of getting a HSC score that high. So what was the point?
And I suppose community-wise, growing up in Coffs, you were a part of many, many different youth community groups and ventures that happened within those. LARP being one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you find the sense of community that came from those environments?
Honestly, yeah, life was a great time, and all of those things, they were a great time. The main thing for me was that it boosted a lot of my creativity then. Like, honestly, having that opportunity within the community, and people that, were prior to this completely ostracized from, the rest of the communities within Coffs Harbour, to come together and to create something for ourselves, to actually be open and be exposed about what exactly we were and what exactly we wanted to be, and how we wanted to do that was just amazing. And I think that opportunity, it was squandered a little, and I think it could have been done better. And though, a lot of people tried to make it so, it just unfortunately, it waned after, a good
The people
year
that were
or
behind
so.
it, that were the strength, I think stepped away a little bit, because of the job it entailed. It was a bit much. There wasn't enough sense of community in the end, like
It
how
was
it had started out as.
there was a few, I think, just incidents that made it hard to hold that community together, and it just drew people apart. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know upon leaving Coffs, it was null and void. It was nothing that was happening anymore. And I think that, despite having things like Nexus and
That's what I was actually about to ask, is it did bring things like Nexus Con,
yeah,
out, that were a brilliant thing for the community.
absolutely. And like, NexusCon was, I think, the end all of it, in my opinion. And I think that will just get better and better from now on. And I think that the right people are a hold of that. And it's going to boost the economy of Coffs Harbour, hopefully, with with gamers anyway, and people that are interested in that sort of community and that sort of spirit. I say the gamers, but it's just the gamer spirit that's always meant to me, that sense of community and people that are just willing to boost each other up. And that was definitely evident in a lot of the people that were with us with live roleplay. And I want to continue that. I really want to start something eventually up here, and do something for the community here, because it is so popular. Just that feeling of being whoever you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to be who you are.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's great. And then in terms of your vocal ability and singing, where did that come from? Obviously, we've talked about your mum and all of that, but where did the development for you to be able to use that skill? Where was the place for that?
Well, I think it had a lot to do with just, I guess, the history in my family, and just thinking about that and wanting to carry it on. Like, my pop obviously comes from here, Lithgow, and he was head of the Black Diamonds, which were a pretty big band in his time. And he really inspired me. I mean, through a lot of what he did, and I guess I found a lot of what he did, within my family and etc. was, I guess, just part of his downfall, and wanting to be able to give some sort of life to the Ollerman name again.
Okay.
After his his, I guess, tragic kind of end, which was,
what was his so how was that tragic?
I mean, he left our family in a tragic kind of way, and he ended up just he honestly, he died on the side of the road in front of a pub from alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this. I will just say that I already knew this, but just to anyone that's watching, just to give context to the situation, it's not like he's tragically just up and walked away from them. He did pass. Alcoholism is a hard thing to deal with when it's someone who's a mentor of yours, or someone that you've seen as a role model in your life.
Honestly, I thank God for it, because of the view I have of alcohol, and because of the power that has given me in a lot of situations to deal with it in the past. And so my dad is similar, and though he's cleaned himself up a bit in the last couple of years. It's
Has
still,
he?
yeah. Oh, honestly, he's
That's great.
doing a
That's
lot
so good
better.
to hear.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean,
It's about
it's
time. No.
it's great for me because it means he might be around for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen him for a long time now, and it'd be nice to be able to have him come up and visit. But yeah.
Yeah, far out. Yeah, no, it's a dichotomy that you can see someone living in when they're stuck in that cycle of alcohol.
Yeah.
Especially when you can see the out and they can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like he's always been a great man and kind and gentle, and unfortunately that changes when he's drinking. And though you try to tell them and you try to tell them, it takes a lot for them to eventually see themselves, and you can't tell them. They have to
He's already been living a life that's 20 years longer than we've been alive, especially when he's a parent, like it's that hard thing. The parent can a lot of the times tell you what they think's right for you, but you can't obviously always tell them what you think's right for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. And I never wanted to really do that anyway. And I mean, doing it when he's drunk, it's useless anyway.
There's no point.
Remember. So yeah, I think you just kind of let the situation happen and walk away, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then moving on to your creative process, and where you've come from, to now, where you are now, I should say. Where has your love for Art Deco and 1920s and that whole era come from?
Honestly, a lot of it came from my grandmother and her best friend, which is Jenny Bonfield. She was actually one of the mayors of Coffs Harbour.
Yeah.
And she was an incredible inspiration growing up, and I think that a lot of their style correlated with 1920s, because I think they recognized and understood that that a lot of that and how it worked with their bodies and etc. And they utilized that a lot of the time, and a lot of the themes from the 1920s. And I just remember growing up that there was so many parties themed around it that we went to. Like one specifically was that one of the mayoral balls was a Great Gatsby themed, things like that. And it was, I just feel something so quintessential to my life. And then coming to this stage in the last few years, I see it everywhere in, Australian original architecture and Australian clothing from early on, because it really was, technically where our country was born. And looking at that, and I don't know, loving the vintage things in life, and hunting for them all the time. It was something that I always encountered, and something that just seeped its way in always through the times. And now it really is an integral part of me. I have obviously all sorts of
well, even walking around your nan's house was the same. Her decor of her house, you'd find little bits and pieces that were very, very much Art Deco, 1920s inspired, lampshades and, things like that, and scarves that were over the lamps and all of that sort of thing. It was very much just reminded me of almost, a smoker's bar almost, but without being a smoker's bar. Yeah, don't you reckon?
That's exactly right. And she did. She had her little ashtray next to her armchair for the longest time.
Yeah.
Up until it became a real health hazard.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely, that's so incredible that you remember that.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. It's a big part of my love for the arts has come from 1920s as well. My love for ballroom dancing and all that. It's very much part of that.
Yeah, and looking into all of that, coming up, it definitely it influences everything now too. I think it's coming back in trends now everywhere, because
you do realize we're in the 2020s now.
Exactly.
Next roaring 20s. Maybe we're just trying to bring it back.
Yeah, no, I think it's time.
Yeah, and what is your heritage? I suppose is a good question to ask. What's your background and your heritage? Didn't ask you that before.
It's a good question, because it's been confused for a long time, and I've been trying to find out, honestly, for a long time. And it's only been coming to the Blue Mountains and digging into my roots here. It's funny and ironic that this land that we stand on is Wiradjuri land, and it is ironically where some of my ancestors come from. And though we have also obviously colonial English settlers, it's just interesting to discover this all about myself and inject it a lot of the time into what I'm doing with my art and etc. Because it's just, it's an incredibly rich culture that we in reality have no goddamn idea about.
No.
And I think it's going to take a lot of people, coming out and just speaking about it now and doing things like art and music and creating about it, because
Connection is the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's time. But
it's about connecting. It's the connection that's missing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's a big part of what I'm finding now is just being out here in the mountains. It's a lot more connected with it here, and there's a lot more information out here, and there's a lot more people doing things about it here, and so I've been able to be exposed to a lot more, and it's
they're probably more connected to their culture though as well. I think there's a little bit of disconnect when you come to Coffs Harbour. I think in a lot of ways when it comes to our actual cultural foundations.
I just found that in high school, I discovered this pretty early on, and this was like in high school. I attempted to get into my Aboriginal studies and start learning then, and unfortunately it was just not something that could be done, because at that time it couldn't be proven at any point. So it wasn't sort of an elective that I could take. It wasn't
a
class that I could jump into. It wasn't
it's very mainstream when you actually do get into it as well, though. That's the thing. It's not actually necessarily teaching you about the cultures that are around you. It's trying to teach you about the cultures of Australia, which doesn't make any sense when there's that many different tribes and different families and different all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Around here alone there are 3 tribes that come together in one place, and it's
which then connects to about 16 different other tribes.
Yeah, exactly. Like it should be something that we are paying more attention to at this point, and giving more rise to. And just anyway.
And for your siblings, are your siblings very creative humans?
Yeah, honestly, my siblings, they don't do much about it now, but they are very creative. And my little brother was always incredibly creative growing up. He was he was always on to creating different movie plots and projects with Lego and videos and things like that. And my little sister was always an incredible singer and still is to this day. And I think they
why doesn't Kitty use it then?
I don't know. She definitely needs to. She needs to, I don't know, learn an instrument, start doing some gigs somewhere, because she's got a gorgeous voice, and she needs to do something about it more than I guess Mum and I ever did. That would be awesome. No pressure, but it's beautiful that she has a gift, and I think she has the the confidence and ability to be able to do something with it. So
yeah, no, it's really beautiful. And I'm just trying to think of how to go on to the next bit. I can't segue. I can't segue this. Okay, on a whole different thought, on a whole other thought. Okay, so the LGBTQI plus banner and your life. How has that been an empowering thing for you? I suppose is a good way to go about it.
Empowering thing. I don't know about. Well, I guess empowering. It's more of the pansexual scale, and I guess I've taken that in on my name, and I've taken that in on a lot of different, I guess, spiritual levels, or whatever you want to call it. It's very much that spirit I take in is the pansexual spirit. You know, people are people to me, and I really like to rely on that sort of personality. Well, not like to, I have to. There is
You are that. I don't know even if you are that. Is a difference between you wanting to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it's, I can't look past, you know, little things that I find uncomfortable, or, you know, things like that, to like somebody or to get on with somebody. I can't, you know, I can't deny the fact if I do like somebody, or if, you know, they just have things about them that draw me to them. That's just, you know, how it works, and that is a lot of the time regardless of anything, including gender.
So do you see yourself then on the LGBTQ banner, or do you see yourself on a completely different spectrum to it all, you know, or, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's a hard question. I don't put much in labels, to be honest. I put them on there, I guess, to give other people a good idea, because that's,
It's context then.
I'd rather,
not for
like,
you, for others, context for others.
I like people to see what they want to see, and to think what they want to think. It's not necessarily up to me to decide, you know, what everybody's thinking. And I don't particularly care. You know,
that's exactly the end. That's all you have to say then, is that you don't really care. Which is a brilliant way to be. That's the best way to be, I think, in this whole thing. I think it becomes too much of a cesspool of just people telling you what you should be and not actually you being you.
Exactly. People, I mean, all the time. One of my biggest inspirations is Lady Gaga, and she said in an interview, you know, why does it matter if I have a dick? My fans don't care.
Well, this is the reason why everyone thinks she's a hermaphrodite.
Yeah. Who needs to care? Do you like it?
Only her and her sexual partners should have to care what they're using and what they're not using.
Exactly. And so it's like, that is always my answer, and I always think of that when I'm asked that. It's always just I don't care. It's something that I don't. I mean, I engage in. I'm a polyamorous person, and that's how I explain myself to people.
Maybe,
you know.
we should explain to people what polyamorous is.
Just well, I mean, polyamorous is different to everybody, of course, but
totally.
It is just a multitude of relationships I can have at once, obviously within a certain boundary, with that are decided between myself and the partners that I currently have.
I will say Bob the Drag Queen, someone who's in a famous polyamorous relationship. Derek Berry. Yep. Well, actually, they're not technically polyamorous, because they're in a throuple, technically. Even though people like to call it polyamorous, they're actually all sexual and sexually together and in a relationship together.
Yeah.
So it's more of a throuple. But
I find that I feel like, they're an open throuple.
They are. But I think a lot of relationships are open this day and age. I think we need to throw the word open out and just go, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's just a natural thing that happens.
Open means anything. I'm open for talking to people. So do you know what I mean?
People used to do it before the word open came along. So
exactly. Swingers are open.
Exactly. That's
kind of.
Yeah. Swingers are something else.
It's an interesting thing, the whole relationship and what we define as that, how we define someone as being that. Do you know what I mean? It's a strange thing when that's just what they do, not who they are. Yeah,
exactly. And to me, it's rather just that I don't feel like I can or have the right to really control anybody. It's not up to me to make choices for you. So, you know, you have a right to decide whether or not you want to be with me. And
where do you think that's come from? For you, not outside of the other person, but for you.
I think, honestly, it came a lot from watching my mum's experiences with my sibling's father. He was
choices
heavily abusive, and he made some incredible choices during the relationship.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I use the word choices, like Tatiana says it best. Choices.
Choices.
Yeah. But
Exactly.
I think that's a very powerful thing to learn, though, from a young age, and to see that and to take that on in the way that you have. Yeah, most people don't see that and then just perpetuate the same pattern.
Absolutely. And I think I perpetuated it to begin with. Absolutely. And that is definitely something that also contributes to my trauma now. But
you were perpetuating it at a time when you should be perpetuating it. And then what I mean by that is that you're a teenager. You're not an adult. As much as we thought we were adults back then, we weren't at all. Both of us, like being around the same age, we always thought we were adults back then, but we're not. We're more adults now than we ever were.
Exactly. Oh, I look back and I just cringe. I'm still deleting Facebook posts.
This is why I didn't post. I just don't post. Stay away from it.
That's exactly now. Exactly. But no, it definitely contributed to that part of my life. But now it's I feel like I did see that pretty early on, just because I mean my mum was always very much like, after the fact, because I mean she left him, I mean, pretty early on in my life and pretty early on in the other kids' lives, luckily. And honestly, she was just very much adamant about not taking any shit after.
She's too strong a woman to keep taking shit.
Exactly. She is, and she is, probably one of the strongest women I know on this planet, because just the things that I saw her go through, let alone the things that my siblings would have seen her go through during that time. And she still pulls through, and she still did incredible things after it. And I think that showed me that I didn't have to take no shit. And I didn't want to. At some point, I really was just sick of stupid. That's what it came down to. And I think it just, I spiraled to a place where I made it worse and worse and worse. And then eventually I just woke up and went, oh my God, this is ridiculous. What are you doing?
But that's the Herxheimer effect as well, though. Herxheimer effect is where it has to get worse before it gets better. It's a medical term usually, but I think in any situation that we have in our life, a lot of the times it has to get worse before it gets better.
Absolutely. I think I definitely had to hit at least somewhat of a rock bottom before coming back up from that. And it definitely.
Well, rock bottom's easiest to hit. It's the climbing back up's the hard part.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm still getting there.
Yeah, that's a never-ending journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's taking you on to a brilliant journey now. That's, I suppose, fashion field, really, isn't it? It's clothes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lingerie, your own line of clothing, your own shops, your own collections, all this sort of stuff. It's taking on to. I suppose we'll explain what is your new adventure with clothing and all of that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that is our end goal at the moment. We start with a few simpler things and we work up to that. Unfortunately, there's not much that I can really say about.
No, I understand it's all early days. Yeah.
But no, it just it's coming up to that. That is my absolute goal at this stage, is to get out my own line of dresses, hopefully. But
I should say to you, this isn't coming out to the end of the year. So if you've got anything that's coming out by the end of the year, you are welcome to say it, because we won't be bringing this out till August, September.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So what has brought you to this new venture in life? What made you want to go down this new road?
Well, honestly, it came out of nowhere. I loved sewing before this, and I had created a few different little sewing projects in the past. But
LARP being one of them, actually, I should just say, LARP is a big thing, I suppose, even there. You were creating everything then. True. I didn't even put that together. Yeah.
It was the main thing that pushed me towards it, that cosplay aspect. I was always obsessed with creating my own costumes, and because I didn't have access to EVA foam, different things that were expensive, I had material, and so I used that. And I guess going forward, it just never occurred to me to think about taking it up as a career until it came from, honestly, my drawing and things like that. As my mum had this friend that she met in the mining circuit.
Okay.
That there was not the mining circuit, but it was the regeneration mining circuit, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, he was looking to start a business, and he invited me to an interview at the Hydro Majestic, which is in the mountains.
In the mountains, yeah.
And not really knowing much about it, other than I had to design an eye logo.
Okay, yeah.
Of winged eyeliner, something, and show up. and so I did, and we've basically been working together for the last 5 years.
Okay.
Working this business from the ground up, and I didn't really feel. He calls me and did, just the other day, talk about this to me, about being, a true co-founder of the company, even though I really don't feel that way just yet, I guess, with the amount of work I've contributed. I guess he sees that the vision for this company has a lot come from me, just from these last few years working on it together. And it was the best decision I ever made, going to that interview, because we've done some incredible things, and we've got some incredible, I guess, things together to hopefully make some incredible
COVID
product.
willing, obviously. COVID's been, I suppose, the biggest bane in a lot of people's lives at the moment, but
exactly,
it's been the stopper for you.
Yeah, we would have been a lot more prepared and on top of things if it weren't for this COVID thing. Honestly, shipping has been a big thing for us, and just getting off the ground with
shipping is ridiculous. I totally feel you there.
Yeah, so no, it's wild that, a lot of the jobs and the good jobs I've had in the past have come from opportunities like that. And one of my favorites being,
is that being too loud, do you reckon? No, sorry, just got a train coming through. It's all right, keep talking. Sorry to interrupt.
But one of my favorites being Oppie Entertainment, which you got me the opportunity.
Oh my God, I got you that job.
Yeah. And that was, honestly, probably the biggest game changer in, I guess, just my confidence, boost, because that, hosting for trivia and, basically doing that sort of work was a huge confidence boost for me, in that sort of sense, just being able
to... the thing is that when I was working in that field, I could have asked many people to actually have done that job. You do realize?
Yeah.
It takes a certain sort of person. Like, I have to know a person who can handle all aspects and not get flustered by, someone saying that they've done something wrong or telling them off or all those sorts of things. It takes a well-rounded person to be able to host a whole show by themselves.
No, honestly, and that's it.
I'm surprised you didn't see that though in yourself.
Pardon?
I'm surprised you didn't see that in yourself.
I mean, no, not really. I guess I was up against a lot, because my nan was that, she was always the host, and she was.
But do you realize that I even think that you with the training that you've had and the ability to be able to use it, singing even, like, that's kind of where I saw it to begin with, was your singing. Someone who can present well singing is going to be able to present well speaking.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. Thank you. And that faith in me, because that job was, what gave me faith in myself. Seriously. Like, that's probably why I am, I guess, now pushing, and why I did push through to actually do all of this and, get to where I am right now. So yeah, it's amazing.
That's great. No, I didn't think of that, or even, I totally forgot I'd even got you the job.
There you go.
I forget half the time I worked in that field.
Yeah, it was a lot for a very short period, but it was, I mean, yeah, such a great job.
You took on everything though, stepping into that job. You took on more than what most of us did or ever wanted to.
Yeah. You know, I loved it. No,
yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. How did you find that world? I suppose we're talking about trivia and hosting and all of that.
Yeah, honestly, I loved it. I think the atmosphere was just I mean, community and spirited. Every single pub you went to, it was just a lot of people that just wanted to have a good time. They they were terrifying if you ever
competitive as all as anything, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, their regular schedule, but I think that that's just driven out of the absolute passion that they have for going to trivia and having those experiences, because it's such a good time. I love trivia. I still will go to this day to pub trivia just for fun, because it is such a community spirit and we always have a good time.
Yeah.
And the photo booths were great doing all of that. I think I saw some more interesting things at photo booths and weddings, different events than
things we can never we can't even say on camera what half the things we've seen at the photo booths. Weddings were the worst. Weddings were always the worst. The groomsmen, worst of them all.
And I think that's where I get my incredible babysitting skills from too.
that too. The kids that weren't supposed to be at the wedding.
Oh, good times.
Yeah. And I suppose moving on to what you are doing in the future, what you are wanting to, that's not necessarily what you are doing now as with your work and all of that, but what are you wanting to achieve in the future? What are you wanting to ascertain as your goal?
Well, I do have an end goal. Actually, we've talked about this, just because it's I guess, and as my business partner has said in the past, it's good to have an end goal, because I mean, I at some point have an expiry date, obviously, within the business, and within having the know on what's trendy and what's going on in the world, and my designs being relevant and etc. So my end goal is to eventually boost the economy of Kandos so much that I can have a little shop on the main street where I just make dresses for the local women of Kandos. That's it. I just want to settle down as a little dressmaker, eventually somewhere, and make dresses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it's still a goal. It's still something to work towards.
Yeah. Like that's the end goal. I mean, I want to travel, obviously, while that all happens, and that's all I have, really. I want to.
So you've got a 30-year plan at least.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, it's good. You've got to. Yeah, exactly. Like you've got to work towards something. Otherwise, there's no point doing any of the work, because you've not putting it towards something. It's not going to, necessarily go anywhere to a certain degree.
Exactly.
Yeah. What time do we have? Sorry, just checking the time. Oh, I could look on my phone. 10 minutes? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, cool. All right, so we're on to our 10-minute mark. So for the last part, I always ask a hard-hitting question. Hard-hitting question will be to do with something that's to do with you or what you live by or whatever. It's not anything that you wouldn't understand, I hope. I know one of my last interviews, I asked the hard-hitting question and she actually had no clue about the movement I was asking about, but knew everything about what it was to do with. But that's okay. So my question to you is, do you have a view of non-binary being something that is a label? Does that make sense to you, what I'm saying? So it's like, is it categorized, or is it being, put into place, even though we're trying to not put someone in their place?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And honestly, again, I think it's unless that is, you know, referring to a medical term, it's entirely up to the person, you know, as to who carries that term. And, you know, if you feel the need to, I think that, you know, people, you know, you should be able to explain yourself to people that are close to you, and not really even have to touch on terms like that, because you are explaining yourself and have that, you know, time to explain yourself in such a bigger way. And so I think that a lot of those labels are something that is mainly used to just throw out there to other people.
It's contextualizing.
I'm non-binary, but it's not, you know, it's not necessary. Know that if I had any advice for people like that, it's not necessary to anybody that isn't close to you. You know, like it's it's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to think and do exactly what they want, and unfortunately, it is difficult to change people's minds unless on, you know, this kind of worldly scale, which is just being you, being loud and proud about it, and not backing down. You know, I find that as a way almost to back down, because it's like I have to explain myself.
It's explaining, yeah, but it's over explaining yourself, which really isn't even you at the end of the day.
No, it's like I don't need to explain myself to anybody that isn't close to me, because I mean, you wouldn't shout that at somebody that is walking past you on the street that's normal to you. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not something that I find necessary ever really to have to use. I don't think that's saying that anybody should not use it or whatnot, but it's definitely something that I think people should think about, in that sense of don't
exactly that, and that's why it's a personal journey. It's a personal thing. Like, and that's why I was more asking from a personal point of view. It's like, where do you feel you fit, or where do you feel you sit, and all of that, you know, through our conversation, to now understanding why you feel it's not right or wrong, or, you know. Yeah. So my biggest thing is I'd love to be able to coin the new term beyond non-binary.
Yeah.
You know, that's my newest thing, is hashtag beyond non-binary, almost. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's exactly what it is, you know. Like, I mean, looking back on history, even when you think about it, we just didn't, you know, it wasn't that we didn't recognize or blah 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 whatnot. It just didn't really matter in that sense. You did what you wanted, and were what you wanted. And, you know, feminine, masculine, female, male, we're more interconnected rather than being so separate and you know,
two different entities that aren't anything alike.
Aren't anything like, exactly, you know, they are so similar, so alike. They have,
there's only one thing on our bodies, really, or two things on our bodies that are different.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think, you know, people don't really look back on history like that and understand that sort of view, unfortunately, at this stage. And, you know, I'm not responsible for that, so
no. As we said, it's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be me, and it will become more normalized through that. People just being who the hell they want to be, and just
by living. People change by living.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not about words. It's never about words.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, give it up for Keisha. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. So where can we find you? Where can we maybe get involved with you? Maybe get you to come and do work or anything like that? Do you have a social handle or?
Well, I mean, you can follow me on pen.sapien on Instagram, and you can follow the business Illuminaria on Instagram and on Facebook.
We'll try and put the handle maybe up for you as well. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So at least you know how to spell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Well, again, put your hands together for Keisha. Thank you
so much. It was awesome. I had such a great time.
Thanks so much. See ya.